ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for that delay. A few technical difficulties there, but we got it going. I'm running solo tonight with Jeremiah. He's got to, forgive me because I don't have my production guru and sidekick and co-host Gary. He's got some other things going on.
Yep.
So you got to keep me in line tonight.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna do my best.
Yeah, especially we got to watch that time. I don't want to keep you up too late because I know I get the run in my mouth.
That's all right. I tend to get it going too. I could have last night. The other night. I could have talked all night.
Oh yeah, trust me, I can too. I mean, I've had a day, and it's just been like I'm running ragged. It's like I messaged you. I was like, hold on a second, I got to get this cat out of the room because she gets in these ornery moods where she finds anything and everything to play with.
Mine too. Yeah.
So anyway, guys, this is Jerimiah Fountain. Very impressive guy. I just got introduced to him. I know last week, if y'all were watching, I did kind of slip up when I was talking about Jeff Meldrum, and I called him Dr. Jerimiah Fountain. But other than, I guess you could say, the degree, this guy's just as smart. He impresses me with his stories. Last night he blew up my messenger feed with just his evidence, and I was sitting there going, wow,
And I didn't want to overwhelm you. I'm like, man, I feel bad.
No,
blowing her up. I don't want to overwhelm her. That's just like the tip of the iceberg.
That's hey, I love it. I've got, I stay up late. I've got insomnia anyway, so It's the kind of thing where it's like, yeah, send me. And one thing we'll get into talking about it is you are, and I told you this in one of the messages, you're the only other person that's actually seen or explained it the way I've seen it too.
Got it.
So if you don't mind, go ahead and start us off with your background, how you got into, what happened to make you just be like, okay, I'm gonna start going after this. And as you know, Gary's got me on that set saying it too, the target species.
Yes. So me too. Yeah. Anyway. Hi everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. It was kind of. I come from a family of loggers, logging family. My grandmother was full-blooded Mohawk. Kind of grew up hearing about these things, and then when I was 7, my mother showed me a pretty cool book. It was called Mysteries of the Unexplained, and I noticed a picture of this Bigfoot named Patty, and said, "Mom, what's that?" And she explained it to me, and I saw the Shipton footprint of the Yeti, and so I was enthralled. Like, so even as a little boy, I was like hooked. It was that's when the obsession kind of started. I guess from that point on, and we've always had activity on our family properties. Always, as far back as I can remember. My sisters have talked about it. My mom. Only one that won't talk about it is my dad, and I don't know why. I don't press him on it, but he just doesn't like talking about it for some reason. Bad experience, maybe? Don't know. But anyway.
Yeah, it's a possibility. You got your dads that have served in Vietnam and whatnot, and they don't go near it. So, any kind of post-traumatic could possibly do that, because look how long it took Gary to get back out in the woods.
Oh yeah. So it took me a couple of years as well. It ruined my hunting for a long time. But one thing I will say about my dad was on a very famous missing 411 case in the 70s. Wow. The Douglas Leg case in the 70s, in the Adirondacks, and people talk about the possible involvement of the target species in some of these disappearances. Maybe that has something to do with it that bothers them. I don't know. It could be anything, but yeah.
Real quick, go ahead and let people know like where you are from, because whenever it comes down to it, a lot of people, when you hear about the Appalachians, you know what they're talking about, when the Smokies, the Rockies, but very little do you actually hear things coming out about the Adirondacks.
Yes. I am from the Adirondack area of upstate New York. I'm about as far north in the Adirondack Mountains as you can get. The Adirondacks are massive. People do not realize how big the Adirondack Park is. If it was officially considered a national park, it would be by far the biggest in the country. I mean, it's bigger than Yosemite, Grand Canyon National, Smoky Mountain National, Glacier National, and what's I'm missing one? Everglade National Park. It's bigger than all five. Took me a minute. It's bigger than all five put together. It's 6.2 million acres. I mean,
See, I never even realized it was that big.
it's huge. I'll send you a video clip later where it shows it's an aerial view of the park, and it's stunning. It gets very brutally cold up here in the winter, very brutal. But the summertime, springtime, fall, it's just stunning. You know, I've lived all over the country, and this will always be home. You know, I'm a homebody. Love the Adirondacks, and yeah, it'll always be home. You know, did live in North Carolina for a while. We actually just moved back a couple months ago. Did quite a bit of research down there, and that was pretty cool. But most of it's been done, you know, up here. Like I said, I'm about as far north in the Adirondack Park as you can get. So I'm kind of like on the borderline between the Adirondack Park and St. Lawrence Seaway Valley. You know, it's right, the St. Lawrence River and that area, which is also, believe it or not, it's a very active area. You know, that area too.
From what I've seen, you basically just have to walk out your door, and you're.
And they're here, and when that's how, you know, my wife. I had my first. I guess if you're asking how I got into the actual research end of this, was because of my encounter in 2000. My God, it's been that long already. Whew, I'm getting old. So
I feel you, brother.
Woo. So yeah, it was muzzleloader season, and we got some big deer up here, and there's a 10-pointer I've been seeing that I wanted them bad, and I was going to get him that day, you know. So I thought. So I park at back then there was nothing here really, you know. So I pulled in the driveway for the property, and I parked my truck, got out, and I made my way back, got in my tree stand, and sat there for quite a while, you know. And finally, I didn't see a thing. I saw a button buck. I mean, legally you can shoot them with a muzzleloader in New York, but no, that's not my thing, you know. So I let him walk by, and I said after that, you know, I'll sit here a few more minutes and I'm gonna get out of here. So I walked out, and I walked down the logging road, and I had about a mile and a half, maybe about a mile and a half walk from where I was sitting to my truck. So my dad had an old skidder down there. My dad's a hoarder. So he installs old logging equipment, and he was also, you know, a state trooper as well. So he hoards weapons, he hoards equipment, you name it, he hoards it. So at this period of time, he had a bunch of old tractors, and he had an old log skidder down there. And I'm talking an old one, like from 40s, you know, it was old. Not a real big one, but I'm walking down the logging road, and I look, and there's something, it's got its head peeking around the front of the back of the skidder, and I kind of look, and I know my wildlife up here, you know, and you know how it is, Ashley, as a hunter, you know your wildlife, you know, you just do. And this was different, just the sense I got, the read I got, looking at these eyes, they're roundish amber colored eyes. And I had never seen that before, you know. So it just kind of confused me, and so it was dusk. But it was dropping quick. You know, it was getting dark real fast. So I turned my headlamp on, and I said, "Okay, well, I'll just keep walking, and if it pops its head out again, I'll check it out." You know, so I get to exactly to the probably 45, 50 feet away from that skidder. Okay, I'm on the logging road, and it pokes its head out again, and that's when I got to look. And it had its arm wrapped around the front end of the skidder as well, which the way I was facing, it would have had to have been its left arm. So it was kind of like this, looking at me.
Wow. Okay.
So and even being a believer, I still didn't process it, if that makes sense. I still didn't process it. I didn't say to myself, "Oh my God, I'm looking at a Bigfoot." No, it wasn't like that. It was like, did someone's orangutan get loose? I was looking like that.
Oh yeah.
It's weird, just weird. Um, so like I said, it's looking at me, and then it popped back behind the skidder again. And I'm standing there and I'm just in awe. Like, what is that? I probably just should have left, but I couldn't. I was kind of, maybe I was frozen in a way, all of a sudden, okay, there's a log, and this log, it was a big log, and it was laying. So I'm standing like this, okay. The skidder's here, and there's a log laying. So that would be vertical to me, and it would have been horizontal to the skidder. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, this thing comes launching out from behind the skidder. Okay. Now let's think about something okay, we'll come back to that. The way John leaped and it hit that log. Okay. And the way it was amazing. I've never seen anything this athletic in my entire life. Okay. It propelled itself off the front half of its feet. That's the only word I can come up with to describe what it did. And for some reason, that's what caught my attention. There was no bending at the knees and forcing itself to jump again. It wasn't really a swing of the arms. It was a hit that log and propel myself off the front half of my foot and
Wow.
leap another 15 feet, But here's the thing. So the skidder was probably let's use the skidder itself had to have been 12 feet long. It was just small. So that thing could have been hiding behind the front of it, but it could have been all the way at the back end of it as well, and I didn't see it. So if that was the case, that would have been like a 30-foot leap, But if it was behind the front end, like I'm thinking, it was about 12 to 15 feet to that log. And this thing did it with ease. It just launched itself off the front half of its feet.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I couldn't believe it. I still think about it to this day, and it just puts me in awe. And propelled itself to another tree, a standing tree this time, and it was a good 15 feet. Okay. And at that point, that's when it decided it was going to check me out. And at that point, I was like, okay, now this is something that I've never seen before. This is something that I've heard about in books, and this is something that's not really supposed to exist, even though I was a believer. I couldn't believe I was actually looking at what I was looking at. And even then, I still don't think I fully processed it. Even then, I don't think I did. But I got a pretty decent look at it. Like I said, we were anywhere from 40 to 50 feet away. It was extremely hairy, long hair.
I was going to ask you, since you said, did an orangutan, was it the reddish color?
It was like an auburnish red. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Brown, maybe more on the brown side, but it did have that tint to it. It was getting dark, so it was kind of hard to tell, whether it was more towards like a brownish color or a reddish color,
Yeah.
But yes, to answer your question, the only thing I can think of that it resembled was an orangutan, very extremely long arms, and it was a juvenile, and it was about 5 feet. I would say maybe even a little bit shorter. I don't know. But if I had to guess, I would say 5 feet.
So he's a little guy, and bounding 15 feet.
Yeah, but here's the deal. It was you were a fighter. You were a martial artist. You're probably good at judging weight as well. I know I can judge weight pretty good. This thing was anywhere between 185 and 200 pounds.
Okay.
Now let's face the facts. Okay, at that height, that's pretty full of muscle. People say, well, that's not that big. We want to bet. I'll say, you want to bet?
Yeah.
5 feet, 200 pounds, jacked. That's that's big. That's put together, you know.
Oh
And
yeah.
and I say he, it might have been a female, I don't know, but it was a juvenile, and it was put together. I mean, it was intimidating. Even though it was a small one, I was scared. It intimidated me. It did. I'm not gonna lie.
Hell yeah. I mean, you don't know
Yeah,
what you're looking at. So of course it's going to be one of those.
exactly. And the whole this the first time I've had a few encounters in my day, but the whole face was covered in hair. The whole face.
Okay.
The whole face, which is very interesting to me.
Let me ask you something real quick
Yeah,
on that one. I mean, we all have our theories. And
sure.
lately when it comes to, this circle that pretty much you and I run in,
Yeah,
we all agree. None of us know
right,
anything because, I mean, we can't study these things up close. We can't put them in a zoo. We can't put them in a lab.
right,
We can't even sit there and study them from afar.
right.
Do you think that maybe, you know how like when babies are born
Mhm.
and they have that, the hair pretty much that was protecting them and, I can't, for the life of
Yeah.
me, I can't remember the name of it.
No,
You think maybe it was that kind of thing where it hadn't grown out of the full facial hair? Because I mean, I've seen babies with the thick,
maybe that's a good point. I never thought about that. But
I
that
mean, that's just a thought because I've never seen one with the full facial. But
yeah.
since you're saying he was only about 5 foot, that had to be a young buck.
Oh, very
And
young. Yeah.
but still, of course, he has built enough to make such a strong leap. And
Yeah.
but I mean, that's the only thing that comes to mind.
Yeah,
Is
that's interesting.
just because I mean we're born that way, and of course most babies, it's like within the first, even if you have it, a lot of it is
Mhm.
mostly gone within the first month or so. But these are totally different from us. So,
Right.
but
Yeah.
I'm sorry for
No,
telling
that's
you
okay.
a story.
And hey, if you have something thought that, throw it in there. 'Cause I never thought about
Thank
that.
you.
That's actually pretty cool. Pretty cool theory.
Here we go.
But yeah, I had the long hair.
The Lanugo hair.
Gotcha.
Yes.
So yeah, covered in hair. I could see the eyes though. The eyes were shining through all that hair, and they were amber. They were an amber. If I had to say any color, they were an amberish color. And I started to kind of loosen. No, I shouldn't say loosen up because I was still tense as all heck. I was still scared, but I had to. I know everyone out there to know I am not pro kill. Just to throw that out there. But I did want to get a better look at it. And I had my headlamp, it was fully illuminated. So I pulled up, I started to take my muzzleloader off my shoulder. I had a nice scope on my muzzleloader and figured I could get a peek, a real good look, The minute I took it off my shoulder and started to raise it, it went kind of like this. Like almost it was like it was covering up.
Like it knew what a gun
What that
was.
was. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sorry if I missed it.
Mhm.
Roughly how far away were you?
I would say 45, 50 feet.
Oh wow. Okay.
Maybe a little bit further. It's it's going back 21 years now. It's hard to remember, but I would say at the most 50 feet.
Yeah.
The most. And I had my scope on the lowest setting, so I would have been able to get a really up close and personal look at it if I had been able to get it up there.
Yeah, pick out nose hairs and everything.
right, yeah. But it covered up almost, and it boom, kind of went around that tree, but it never took its eyes off me. So it was like one of these deals. It was covered, and it was still looking at me, almost like a stance. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, that's what
Exactly.
is our, that's how when we'd be in the cage. We're ready for anything.
Ready for
whether it
anything.
be I mean, of course, no, you can't we're not Superman or Wonder Woman. We can't do this with our wrist and block a bullet. But at the same time, that's just natural defense,
Exactly. And yeah, I don't know. So that's another thing I really never thought about is was it trying to cover up or was it really just getting ready?
Whatever it had to do. Yeah.
Whatever it had to do. And it never took its eyes off me, and it bounced, kind of brought itself back around behind that big tree, and I could hear it take off. It was gone.
So how long was this whole interaction, would you say?
God, but from the time it took a leap, from the time I saw it
Yeah, from the very, like, once it
Very
first
first time.
popped out to the time it took off.
5 minutes at the most.
Wow. That's, I mean, that's pretty
It's a
good.
lot. Yeah. And, you know, from the time I saw the eyes for the very first time, it was about 5 minutes. Because I
Golly.
had to walk that extra little ways. Yeah, about 5 minutes. Yeah. And it
That's
was
awesome.
gone. It was gone. It was almost like it disappeared into thin air. But what I think they do is, Gary and I have talked about this several times. Like they'll find, if they're hiding behind a tree, I think they know the exact angle to run at.
They have that egress point.
Right?
Yes.
Yep. I think so. If they just that's why you can't see them. That's why sometimes it'll seem like they're disappearing, but I think that's what this one did. I think anyway.
Yeah. So, well, going on to that, I'll ask you. So you think that they're smart enough, like, as in like a trained soldier
Mhm.
would be, you have that egress point where you can have your target, see it, and then if something happens, you got a way out.
Mhm.
Do you think or believe in the wormholes or them stepping into another dimension, as some people do believe?
I believe in
And
the
I'm not knocking anybody that believes
Oh, yeah.
that. I just want to know what your belief in it is.
I believe they're flesh and blood. I think maybe 100 years down the road there'll be technology that because it's all physics. I mean, might be able to do that 100 years down the road. But right now, they're flesh, as far as they go, they're flesh and blood. From what I've seen, we're flesh and blood animals.
Yes.
Do I believe they have abilities that we don't understand yet? And I'm not saying mental telepathy or anything like that. And I'm not talking anything paranormal.
Like cloaking.
Yeah, I'm maybe I think they can do things that we just don't understand yet, biologically speaking.
Yeah.
It's kind of like people, you would always hear, okay, you got to shine a light in its eyes to get eye shine back. Well, no.
No, you don't.
No, you don't. My wife and I watched 6 of them come out of the bayou one night in North Carolina, and she likes to sit in the black, and she gets her rocks off on it. I don't know, but I don't know if she loves it. Loves being just sitting there in the pitch black.
Yeah.
We heard them walking out, and we didn't see anything, and they popped on.
Since you bring that up real quick,
Yeah.
do you want me to share a picture that you do have of eye shine?
Absolutely. Oh, shine.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Let's see if we can find this. Actually, keep talking.
Yeah.
And so I can pull that up because
Sure.
I made sure I made somewhat of a,
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, eyes. We see red ones, we see blue ones, and they were all different colors. There was a green set, a blue set, a red set, a maroonish set, and it just very bizarre. And the one and my stepson and I sent you that video, right? Of how my stepson and I watched that one come out with the white.
Yeah.
Yep. Then I've seen the white fluorescent as well, and it's usually. I think you told me you noticed the second one.
I noticed 2 more.
Yes,
other than that one.
I did rewatch it, and you're right.
They were lower.
Yes.
And you could tell at different distances.
Yep.
Because they were faded. They were a lot more faded.
Yep.
Than what that's why I sent you that message back. I was like,
Yes.
dude, have you really watched that to notice that there's more than just one set? I mean, you had that one that was, just blasting basically. It was, it's like you look at Superman and, you think of those kind of eyes, and then you turn back around and you're like, this is weird. So
yeah,
it was definitely one of those things when I looked at it, and I was like, and what amazed me, and I'll go ahead and mention that, I've asked people, I consider myself pretty much a rookie to the field because what made me join it is kind of like you, as a Class A sighting.
Mm-hmm.
And this happened back in 2012. Mm-hmm. So I dove into it now, and I told you about, my shift partner throwing the rocks.
Yes.
When that was going on, that's the only time I've ever seen red eye shine.
That's what you were saying. Yeah.
Yeah, but then once I stopped leaving him or letting him go on the security walks with me and left him inside, and I started letting my energy go, doing the Native American kind of thing and bonding,
Yep.
and he started to trust me. And then when I would catch him, one way, not only did you not need the lights like you were saying before, but it was a nice, soft blue glow. It was just like, it was the most beautiful thing. I mean, of course, people, no matter what you see, it leaves you in awe as
It
far as
does.
the colors go, the range of colors. But you are like really the only person that has sat there and flat out been like, they were blue, you know?
Straight up blue. Yeah. I mean,
So,
yeah. Yeah.
um,
Even the one we saw. I don't know if I told you about that or not. We had an encounter down there. It was myself, my stepdaughter, one of her friends, and a research partner of mine that I had down there. And we were underneath this old train trestle. And, we were underneath the tracks, and there was the river, and it connected two areas that my wife and I researched. One area where we think they bedded down in, and one area we think they hunted. Now, this where we were sitting that night, that connected the two, so they had to walk through there. They would have to walk through there to get from spot to spot. Now, I think I was texting. I was on with Gary actually on Messenger, and we were talking and just shooting the breeze, and all of a sudden I hear my stepdaughter scream, and her friends start screaming, and my research partner freaking out because he was kind of a younger guy, in his early 20s, And Jeremiah, what is that? What is that? What is it? It's coming this way. It's coming. We gotta run. We gotta run. And I look up real quick, and I get a glimpse, and I see it real quick, and then I turn to them. I said, "Don't you run anywhere. Stay right there. The worst thing you could probably do is run. Just chill. And here I am. I'm a little bit intimidated myself.
it's not what I meant to do. Sorry.
That's
Go ahead.
okay. I'm a little bit intimidated myself, but I can't let them see that. I kind of had to hold it together for my daughter. Anyway, by the time I had to hang out, I hung up on Gary, stuck the phone in my pocket, and by the time what scared them so bad is they saw it walk out of the swamp, and it looked like it was coming right towards us. Okay, this is what she told me afterwards. But by the time I looked up and saw it, it was heading up the hill on the other side, and it was in some vegetation. So I saw it from chest level up.
Wow.
So, and the vegetation was about I'd say 5 feet. So you're probably talking 7.5 to 7.5. He was about 7.5 feet, and he didn't look at it. He did not look our way one time when he was walking up that hill. And I say he because I'm confident it was a male. It was just, you get that feeling, but you could see he gave me his whole profile, his side view, and you could see I lit him right up, and you could see the blue eyes. You could see the blue eyes, and they built. I gotta say, they're built much different than what I'm used to dealing with up here. Built much different. They're not as tall. But they're blockier. You know what I mean? A little bit built like a block. Like a. It's a good way to describe it. I can tell you this much: it had like almost like a beer belly, almost, but you could tell it was no beer belly. That was pure muscle. You know what I mean? So it wasn't threaded up like a bodybuilder, but he was stacked. And he walked up that hill and crossed the railroad tracks and walked into the bush on the other side. And that was the only up close and personal, aside from those ones at night on the the cameras, that we saw him. But it scared the girls pretty bad. You're talking about 17-year-old girls, and my buddy, he was a young guy himself, and it intimidated him. And here I am, I'm scared. It freaked me out. I was still a little bit intimidated. But, I didn't want to show it. But he was a big boy. His the deltoids they're like cannonballs. The one deltoid I could see was like a cannonball from front to back, just like the big female I saw in New York, which I'll get into in a minute. He had to have been 3.5 feet thick from chest to back.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes.
Dang.
Yeah. Very. Yeah.
So you got a nice, good profile.
I did.
When it comes down to, like, when you say that width, would you say he had that built chest and then like a sunken? So, okay.
No. The way I would describe it is that barrel chest, but with like the stomach kind of curled like a beer belly would be, but solid. You could tell it wasn't fat.
Kind of like, I mean, when they do the men's world or strongest man in the world, these guys look like they've got beer bellies and they look like they've got, like fat or, just a spare tire, but it's not. It's just not. Muscle. Perfect. So, okay. Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense because, I mean, if these guys are moving trees and doing what they got to do to go with it, it's just.
Absolutely. And that night, I don't know if I told you this, but that night, the night that we got the video you picked up on the two other ones. Mm-hmm. Well, right after I had shut the camera off that night, we had a boulder come flying from where those eyes were to where we were standing on the bridge.
About how high would you say?
The trestle was from where we were standing to the water. I would say it's probably a good 20 feet down. If you were to jump off and jump in the water, you're probably going to fall 20 feet. But this was a boulder. This was not a tiny rock. This was big, and you could hear it when it hit the water. It was so heavy and thrown so hard, you could hear it hit other rocks in the bottom. Like smash. And then about 2 seconds later, right away, one came from behind us and landed in the water behind us. I said, okay, now that's our cue. We got to go. Because that's, in my opinion, that's them telling us that they probably really didn't want us there at that moment. They're probably I've always thought, when I think about it, I think they were about to probably hunt or something, and just wanted us out of there. They didn't want to be disturbed, But I said, we got to get out of here, And then, that was a pretty cool encounter I had down there. Had one other really funky experience down there, and I wish I could find it. I did a Facebook Live session, and I was getting towards the end of it, and Travis Bowen was the only one on there with me at the moment. And there was a mud bed. Okay, this was in the area, we call it the hunting area. Mm-hmm. So I broke my own rule, went down there at night. It's about midnight. And so I'm walking around that mud bed, and I see two sets of tracks that I was familiar with. I knew the individuals because I had seen them. I keep track of everything and the length and the width, and I keep track of everything. And I was familiar. I knew which individuals it was. Then I noticed another one, and it was big. So I pulled out the tape, and it was a 16-inch track, and I got the weirdest feeling that it was in there with me because I could hear something moving behind me. Mm-hmm. Now, the two other tracks that I was just telling you about, you could tell were a day old, maybe a day or two old. But the big ones, they were fresh. Travis is like, dude, walk around that mud bed, in a circle and see if anything follows you. So, yep, God, that still gives me some chills.
Is that showing good for you? Because right now,
you lost. It's not on there right now.
Wow. For some reason, it keeps I'm trying to crop it.
yeah, it was on there pretty good. But yeah, so I did. And I said, that's a good idea, Travis. So I kept him on me the whole time it was kind of a security blanket too, having him on me, So I walk around and I wind up back at the starting point to where I had started. Lo and behold, I look to my left, and you could see tracks. It had followed me all the way around. All of a sudden, Travis is like, get out of there now. Go. Yeah. Leave. Well, I'm like, what's wrong? He goes, dude, get out of there. about 10 feet behind you, he just poked his head out from behind the tree and stared at you. He said, "Get out of there." So I said, "Okay, I'm gone." Because that was to hear Travis hold his stuff together pretty well. He's pretty, he's an experienced guy. And to hear him, freak out like that and be like, "Get out of there now," it kind of put a little bit of fear into me too. So I left it alone because I don't know why he was following. Who knows why it was following me?
Yeah. Sometimes I don't know if it's almost like an escort.
That's my
escorting you out of the woods, or they want to make sure you're getting out.
Yeah.
Or
Could be
it's
worse.
their turn to follow you. They're trying to get curious about what you're doing and why.
Exactly. Yep. I agree. And then Stacy and I were paced out one day. We were coming back we were checking out that bedding area. That those pictures I sent you with all like the dens with the vines in front of them and stuff. We were coming from that area, and it was about a 2-mile walk back to the trestle area. Okay.
Mhm.
So as we get closer to the trestle area, Stacy says, "Jeremiah, something's pacing us." And I said, "No." I said, "I can't hear anything." She's like, "I'm telling you, something's pacing us."
Mhm.
Okay, so just keep walking. And I said, "Well, we're okay." And we kept walking, and then I heard it. I said, "Babe," I said, "I hate to admit this, but you are right."
Yeah.
I
Typical
told you.
male.
I told you, she says. And I said, "Okay, just keep walking, keep walking." Then I said, "Stop." And you could hear it go. It took 2 steps before it stopped.
Wow.
So I said, "Okay." He said, "Go." So we started walking again, and you could hear it walking next to us. And I said, "Stop." And we stopped again, and you could hear it go, choo choo. Took 2 more steps. So we're about to start walking again, and Stacy says, "Jeremiah, throw me the camera. I've got a great shot."
Yeah.
And I believe I sent you those pictures where you can see you could actually she got off 5 pictures. And you can see the red eyes with the partial face staring at us. And from that level, it would have been about 7.5 feet up. And in that picture, those pictures, Sean Wilson noticed another one. And I don't know if I sent you the picture of that one he found in there, but I'll send it to you after. Just remind me. Clearly a Sasquatch. Clearly, and there was sometimes it takes that third eye, that second eye from another person before you notice things. Like I'm even noticing things, going over my stuff from months ago, and I'm starting to notice things. You gotta every few months I'll break out my stuff and look at it, but. So yeah, that's about that's how I got into the whole field. But going backwards,
there we go.
There.
Finally.
Oh, lost him again.
Oh my gosh. My computer is like, it's making me mad.
Yeah.
Then again, it's also probably is that operator error kind of thing.
That's the problem I have. Yeah, operator. Yeah. That's what Gary called it. Operator error.
That's why I have him as my guru. It's like, "Gary, where are you? Come on, man! I want to show this." Let's see if okay, wait. I just won't touch it once I put it up. There we go.
You're there. That's it.
Yes. Yep. That's, that shot, and, I did have to crop it and move him closer. So, no, guys, he was not face to face when this picture was actually taken. But, it's amazing. Because you could see that it's not just I honestly couldn't explain it. As far as 2 blue lights that are basically level to each other, they do have that. And I call it, a lot of times I call it like the wondrous shape.
Yes.
Because they can go from the almond to that big round, like Puss in Boots kind of loving look. And it's like I mentioned to you when, you had me on your show. They're like us. Granted, everybody says we all have a doppelganger out there, But I don't
Right.
believe, they have genetics, they have different facial features. They're going to have, one's going to have a wider nose than the other. One might have a bigger brow and deeper set
Yeah,
eyes. Hair may grow in different places. I mean, like the juvenile you saw.
absolutely.
That could be a family trait along them that they actually do have that fur. Or
Right.
it could have been, the baby, hair like we were talking about. But
And
it's
I think it was. I think you're right because I'll get and it'll make sense as to why. 2007 is when I officially got into the research heavy. I needed answers. I wanted answers. I needed answers. I had to have them.
yeah.
So it's late deer season. Okay, it's God, mid-November, and I was after a nice buck. I had taken a crack at him the day before, and I missed him because he was, some just a tough shot. I'll admit it. I missed. Okay, I missed. So
You're
anyway,
not my friend no more. You can't shoot great.
I had shot at him the day before. I had a 243 Winchester short mag. So following night, I said I brought my 300 Weatherby mag. So I said if he's at that distance tonight, I'm not going to have a problem putting him down with this 300 Weatherby. So I brought the Big Daddy. Anyway, I wasn't gonna hunt that long. I had some work to do in the tree stand. I had to fix the stairs on my tree stand actually. So I got that done, and I said, okay, I got it before it gets dark. I got a little while. I'll sit for a little bit, see what happens.
So you got a full box tree stand.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So I climbed out. I'm in the tree stand. I'm sitting there, and I got my chair in there and everything, and I hear the most god awful scream, and it was like a scream / yell. Did you listen to any of those vocals I sent you?
Oh God, yeah, I listened to everything you sent me. Like last night, I was going over and over. It's like I hate closed doors. I mean, whether my roommate told them or not,
Yeah,
I can't sleep with my door closed. I don't like sitting in, but like I was shut my door so that the animals couldn't mess with me, and I'm sitting there with my headphones like this, and I was sitting there going, damn, and I've got a phone from you, and I have a mutual friend that I figured out today. I did an investigation with him.
Oh, okay.
And I've got my old S5 that I picked up so many good vocals on, and I'm waiting for some of the other vocals to come in. This was 5 years ago.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but that crazy old Brit, from across the pond. That sounded more Australian than British.
That was a good one. That was a good Australian accent. That was good. That was really good.
I mean, he's a great guy, and I have so much of him on there and his ideals and listening to, and so much evidence. And I'm just sitting there like, I can't remember the daggum pattern. I'm like, no, don't do this to me. Because I'm not going to do a factory reset. I refuse to. I will play with that thing to get the pattern through and open it somehow.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to waste that. There's too much good footage on it.
I'm having a problem like that myself right now. I can't get into my old email or one of my old Gmail accounts that has a plethora of evidence on it.
And yeah. It sucks. It's like when I tried to get in my old YouTube, they're like, you got to have your old phone number. And I'm like, I don't know what my phone number is right now. I don't call myself. How do I know what my old phone number is?
Same here. Yeah. So it sucks. I'm in a position like that right now, but I'll get it eventually. But anyway, yeah, I hear it was a god awful deep scream / yell. It's the only way to describe it. And it was coming from the opposite, not from where I had to go, but it was coming from another end. Mm-hmm. It was coming from the opposite side. So I said, okay. I said, I got to get out of here, and here I'm remembering the encounter from back in the day, I had been into the research a little bit from that point on, from 2000 on, but not heavy yet. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay. I said, I'm going to get out of here. I said, something's not right. Doesn't feel right, So I walk down the stairs and I start walking down. We have that spring down there. It's a beautiful, right out back. It's a beautiful spring. It's you can see the white quicksand bubbling, and hell, I drink out of it. In the summertime, it's great. That could be one of the reasons that they're attracted to this property.
That's, I mean, that's one thing I'm surprised, because there's a place I go camping, and it's off of what they call Terrapin Creek or Terrapin River.
Okay.
And there's where we actually camp it is called Seven Springs. And there's 7 different little underground springs that pop up into this one little, like, kind of rock outcropping and then pour
Yes.
into the river. Yep. And we even brought, we had one of our Gatorade bottles that we had drank out of while we were doing it. We filled that thing up and drank straight from it. I mean, because it's just pure water.
It's pure. Right.
There's no parasites in it, nothing that's going to get you sick. And I mean, it's just, and it was delicious.
It tastes great.
That's the best water I've ever tasted. I was like, oh my gosh, Mother Nature needs to be the one doing this stuff, not people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I put my tree stand so close to that thing too, because, that'll attract deer. And the boots and everything else, and that'll attract the target species. And it's just the water itself I think attracts them. Why wouldn't it? But anyway, I had to walk past that in order to get to the logging road to bring me back up the trail to my vehicle. Mm-hmm. So I get to the pond, okay, and I'm walking around like that, and then the logging road branches off and goes that way. So, about 30 feet away from me, standing about 5 feet offshore in the pond, is a tree. And I said, well, that's awful bizarre. I've never seen a tree there before.
Like vertical or?
No, it's vertical.
Okay.
A very built big tree. So, all of a sudden, the tree decides to turn its hips and look directly at me.
Oh, okay.
And that's how good they are at camouflage.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable. And I've heard from reports over the years, I've heard many like that, of them pretending to be stumps, trees, whatever. And they're
trees and stumps pretending to be them for the glorified pictures from people.
There you go. Exactly.
Y'all forgive me. I'm in an ornery mood tonight. I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm just.
That's very well put.
I'm going to throw stuff out there. Like I said, I don't have Gary to rein me in. He can't pull that reel back and say, knock it off.
Yeah, you gotta have fun with it every now and then.
Y'all are witnessing me unsupervised tonight, so.
Yeah, same here too. So we're in trouble. So yeah, the tree turns and looks at me, and it was classic because it didn't. They say they can't turn their neck, and that's true. They had to turn the whole thing.
It can only get so far before those shoulders got to follow.
Yep, and it was a female, big girl.
Wow,
big girl. And she was definitely a red, more of a red. Like, she was auburn. She had that red color. And one thing I forgot to mention about the little one and this one is that the hair, and it's definitely hair. It's not fur like a bear. It's definitely hair. Mm-hmm. Very clean. You hear about mats and all that, and these I mean, I'm sure they grew them for one. Mm-hmm. Second of all, it makes me wonder: do they grow in a winter coat?
That's that was one
especially
thing
up here.
Yeah, I brought up because like your description of a male fits the same description of mine.
Yeah.
And one of my questions had been because I had never really talked to somebody that had a Class A sighting that far, as far north as you are. And I was wondering, because you got the PG film, Patterson Gimlin.
Yes.
Where you can look at Patty, and granted, she's a female, and people think that her weight set and the way she's built at that time is because she just had a baby. Me, I look at it like this. Okay, yeah, she could have just had a baby, but she could also just be a mother of several.
Exactly.
And just like our, women, our bodies change and we get saggier. We keep that layer of fat. But then I also wondered, okay, here, are the ones further up north, do they carry more body fat? Do they carry more BMI than the ones in the south? Because you don't have to deal with like where you are with 2 feet of snow. And
right.
it's just, I wondered if it was more, because of course everybody talks about evolution,
Yes.
them involved.
Yeah.
I talk about adaptation. Which, with you being further north and having been there for so long, you can take on the cold better than I could. Yeah. I mean, you put me outside in 2 feet of snow like you went live last night, I'd look like the kid from A Christmas Story, and with my arms out to the side, I'd tick about to pop. Because I'd be like, I would be bundled up, and if we got attacked, I'd be the one to get got, because I'd fall down and I'd be like, y'all help me.
What a great movie.
Yeah. But I'm not lying. When I was younger, I loved the snow, but now that I've gotten older and it gets cold, I'm like,
yeah,
I don't want to be outside. Yeah. Even though I'd love to track in the snow, because God, I can only imagine the tracks that you see.
It's definitely different. It's definitely different. And be honest with you, it depends on what kind of snowfall we've had. Because sometimes you'll get the packy snow. Which that'll usually you'll see in that'll leave a lot of definition. The packy snow, the powdery stuff, it's very hard to tell. Like the powdery snow, and then you'll get snow that has the ice over it, that's also hard to tell. But it's easier to see a track in that than it is the powdery stuff, But anyway,
and that's a good point, because older females, as far as we go, and even in the primates, as far as apes go, they do get saggier. They get that, sometimes women get a little more weight, or they actually lose weight. It just depends. So it's all on that biology, I guess you could say, their genetics, how they're built. Right. What they can, if they're a gatherer, and we don't know what kind of roles women or female Sasquatch play versus the males.
We really don't know. No, for sure.
Yeah, they could be just as instrumental in fighting.
Which is, I personally, I think that's probably the case. But I don't know. Like you were saying, we don't know for sure. We don't know for sure, but oh yeah, you have to excuse me. That brain, just the brain, and that kickboxing. That
hey, welcome to my world, honey.
I know. I forgot. You know how it is. So
yeah.
Anyway, so she's standing about 5 feet offshore, and she starts to look. She said she's eyeballing me straight up, and I lost control of my functions. I'm not afraid to admit it.
No shame in that game.
No. Yeah, and this getting me goosebumps. But yeah, I just remember every time I talk about this encounter, it was intense. Yeah. So she's looking at me, and I got such a good look at her. You talk about big. Her breasts didn't sag all like as low as Patty's, but they were, they were there.
Prominent enough to.
Yeah. The most impressive part about her was the hip area. The largest part, like her buttock.
So did she have like a pair, or are you just talking about the back being
like the whole, like even the front and the back, like all the way, like, what I mean? The buttocks, the hip, it was very large and all muscle. All muscle. The quadriceps are just unbelievable. The hands, where I was telling, was it you I was telling, or was it Barry last night? I forget. I got a real good look at. She had vegetation in her right hand, and I don't know what she was going to be doing with that. Maybe eating it.
Yeah, I don't remember you mentioning that. Because I know you sent a lot of vocal messages, so I was like,
yeah. She had vegetation. She was carrying it. She had it would have been her right hand. Okay.
Real quick question.
Yeah.
Would you, when you say vegetation, would this be underwater vegetation or from the shore?
And this time, at that time of year up here, everything's kind of dying off.
Okay.
We do get a lot of cattails and stuff, and you can eat cattails. Cattails, the bottom part of them are like celery. They're delicious.
Yes. And they're also medicinal.
They're also medicinal. And
yeah. Okay, Barry. Barry says it was me.
Yeah, it was Barry. Yeah, I told him that last night. So yeah, she had vegetation, and like I said, everything was dying, so you really couldn't tell what exactly she had. But So she didn't drop it. She stood her ground and she stared, and we were locked eye to eye. And if I was again telling Barry last night, it's hard for me to put a height on her because the it's so silty. The bottom of that pond is so silty.
Mm-hmm.
The water line came up to about 6 inches below her kneecaps, below her knees. So from that point up, that water line up, I would say 7 feet. So you're talking maybe probably close to 8 feet.
So kind of like brackish water.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah, I mean, the way you mean as far as like
the way you could see and
right,
guesstimate,
exactly.
how deep it was and whatnot. Yeah,
exactly. So she was, for a female, she was very, very big. And again, on her, the most impressive part was front to back. And granted, her shoulders were extremely wide. I shouldn't say she had no neck, because they do have a neck. They just can't use it.
Yeah, it depends on their stance too.
Right. Exactly. Now I tell everyone this every time I talk about it. The hands were very interesting. Very interesting. It was like an eight pan. Okay. Like the thumb was turned inward like that, as opposed to like how ours are.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot.
So the front part of the thumb was facing the same direction as the other 4 digits. And those digits were proportionally much longer than ours. And the thumb, I think, was, longer than ours, but in proportion would have been shorter. So when you think about it, that's perfect for gripping a tree limb and twisting it, or grabbing onto something, that's perfect for gripping, a hand design like that, But yeah, she's looking at me, and I noticed that in her, as far as her head goes, it wasn't that conical head. It was more rounded head than conical. But anyway, the look she gave me was first I saw her eyes move, kind of go to would have been her left, my right. She saw the barrel that Weatherby over my shoulder, and her eyes went back and locked on mine. And it's like that. It's like Sean Wilson says this all the time on the show. It's hilarious. The movie Tombstone. You're gonna go ahead, skin that smoke wagon, see what happens. And
they win.
And like the read she was giving me was like almost like, go ahead, but I promise you, I'm gonna get to you first, and you're not gonna like what happens. And she would have.
Oh, no doubt.
But the look was also like, if you don't have an issue, I don't have an issue. We'll both go our separate ways. So I had no problem with that. Not whatsoever. So now here's a very weird thing I'm going to tell you, and I can't remember if I told you this. I know I told Barry last night. It's going to sound very bizarre, but it's what I saw. And I've had one other person in my lifetime tell me they saw the same thing. You know when a shark bites into a piece of, like a great white biting into a seal, that thing comes over their eyes?
Yeah, that is like the lower lids. I can't remember what they're called.
Yes.
It's for protection.
Yes, exactly. She had something like that. And the only word I've ever used to describe it is some type of membrane or something. I don't know. It came up from the bottom part of the eye, and it was flickering at me. Up and down.
That is crazy. I've never heard that.
Up and down. Maybe it's just to, when it gets dark, maybe it's to help him see at night. I don't know.
Or, like, protection. When sharks do go in for that kill and their eyes roll back and that piece comes up, it's because of whatever could come back.
Exactly.
So, we don't.
It's interesting. It blew my mind. I think that was one of the parts about the whole encounter that I was like, oh my God, what? Because it was.
I think I probably, that I would definitely need to change the shorts then, because the closest I've been, my Class A sighting was at about 50 yards.
which is still close.
Yeah, and
in
then
my opinion.
and the rest of them have been like shadowy. The
Right.
eye shine,
Right.
that's been within like 20, 30 feet. But of
Yeah.
course, it's been where I've been in a yard or not
Right.
really in their territory. And then there's been one, I sent you that audio clip of the
Yeah.
roll call,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that was just 20 feet probably in the Woodline.
Right.
So I mean, I've never had that kind of situation where I've been so scared
Yeah.
because it's right there with me.
Right.
And one thing I talk about is my fight or flight. I'm always fight.
That's how
But I honestly can't say how I would react if I were that close.
You see, yeah, and that I'm always fight too. It's just my nature. I think you being a martial artist as well. I think that's just our nature. We're going to defend ourselves.
Yeah, and and also other people. I mean, just
yeah.
You get that. I think that's one thing about a lot of people that not only do they get into MMA because of stress relief and whatnot, but they also get into it because it's a legal way to keep practicing protecting others, protecting yourself and protecting others.
Absolutely. And it's competition. I mean, I was a high school and college wrestler, first, and I loved competition. I think it keeps your spirit healthy.
And I think Sasquatch think the same way. That they when it comes to fight or flight, they're yes, they will egress. They have those points, but if they've got a child, a juvenile, or another family, they're going to run into it.
They're good. Yeah,
they're very protective of each other. It's a loyalty thing.
Yes, it is.
A lot of people just like I know my wolves.
Mm-hmm.
One thing, like people, of course, they can be a nuisance on ranchers and whatnot.
Sure.
But they are more into the family dynamic than people realize. And I compare wolves to Sasquatch all the time because you'll find when you find a wolf corpse, you're not going to find one, you're going to find two. Right. Because they mate for life.
Yep.
They are, and they choose. They're like penguins. They keep the same mate. They don't run out and just dominate.
Right.
And if one is shot or hit by a car, the other mate will stay by that body and wind up getting shot or wind up, getting hit by a car. And if it's out in the woods or whatever, they'll actually lay down and starve themselves to death.
Sure.
Because of their loyalty.
Oh, yeah.
And I can see that in Sasquatch because
I can too.
Yeah,
they're
fiercely protective.
Fiercely. So yeah, she after we kind of came to that mutual agreement, she bounced out of that water onto the shore, and it was all one motion. And I know this was the distance because I went back later, a couple days later, when I pulled myself together. There were still impressions in the ground. She went 63 feet in 3 leaps.
Damn.
That's like very. That's 21 feet a leap.
Wow.
I mean, it's 600 pounds. I mean, the athleticism is just unreal. It's just unbelievable. She did have facial hair. She did have it. It wasn't a thick beard, but she did have it.
Kind of like the Abe Lincoln thing, but she didn't have it all over like the juvenile.
No. So maybe that's why I'm saying you might be right with that theory, because that could have been a relation to him, or whatever. If it was a female, the little one. I don't know. Could have been a relation to that big female and lost it as he got older. So maybe you're right. Maybe that theory holds some weight. Who knows?
That's all we can do is throw out thoughts and theories and ideas that, somewhat make sense to us.
Right, and exactly.
I wanted to go back to, last night, for those of y'all that are not friends with Jeremiah on Facebook, he basically went out back in his woods behind his house doing a live video. I'm not going to mess with it and try and pull it up because as much trouble as I had with that. But it was very interesting to listen to, you know, just that's one thing. That's one reason why I want to go in the snow, because when it comes to dry leaves and snow, I don't care how good you are when it comes to tracking or whatever it is you're doing, you're going to make some noise.
Absolutely.
And I mean, it was just so cool hearing these bipedal steps
Yeah.
around him. And you can tell when it's a person, because it's more crunch, 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 crunch. When it comes to Sasquatch, it's crunch, crunch, crunch. Because I mean, unless they are running, they're not into that point of let me get the hell out of Dodge.
Right.
They stroll. They take their time.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to know, because one thing that you brought up when you were talking about it was the X's. And,
Yes.
you know, this goes back to how you're talking about, you know, them gripping and how
Yes.
the thumb is more forward facing than it is with ours, with being like that. I mean, it does not mean, you know, just because they're forward facing doesn't mean they're opposable. You know,
Correct.
it's, you know, but they can still grab onto things.
Exactly.
What in your mind and what do you look for? Okay, number one, what does the X mean to you? And when you've come across an X, to put it, you know, of course, there's no definites. You can't say, yeah, this is definitely done. But what puts it in your mind where, okay, yeah, I honestly believe a Bigfoot did this?
Well, when you got something, you got to say you got. I can write off one in an area. Okay. One. Okay. First and foremost, if I find 4 or 5 tracks, a track line next to an X, that for one right there gives me a clue that they did it. Second of all, if I'm in an area on our family land that's hardwoods or coniferous, nothing but coniferous trees, and you've got X's built all over the place that are hardwood. Okay, they were obviously brought from somewhere else. When you've got a 40-foot, 20 to 40-foot tree that had been ripped out of the ground, root ball and all, you know, and then jammed into the ground on one end, root ball in the air on the other, and then the same thing with into an X. And then when you've got 10 of them in one area, just in one spot, you know, I mean, it's insane. And I get the same thing with the A's as well.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning A's, and of course, yeah, that goes back with you know, both of us Native American. I'm Cherokee Creek.
Right.
So, you know, I know, and like with the tree breaks, you know, you could tell if it's pointing to something.
Exactly.
And I've noticed in my area, like when we're talking about the egress points, I've noticed in one of my focal points that I go to, there's almost pits dug out. And no, it is not from runoff, because you'll have a runoff gulch kind of right there, but you have these pits and it's overlooking the creek.
Yes.
And you'll see like a smaller one. And with the small ones, it's almost like it's like a teaching spot for juvenile. Because and I think that the juvenile wind up playing, you know, because mom, you know how kids are. Mom and dad's trying to teach you something, because every small spot that's next to a big, these little sticks kind of like, you know, intricately just put on whatever little brush is coming above it.
Right.
But, you know, when you brought that up last night, I was just like, you know, he's hitting the nail on the head as far as what I've experienced.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll see. I'm going to try this again. We'll see if I can share what I want. I want to get your thoughts on it. But go ahead with what you were saying, and make sure you throw in there what you believe the X stands for. Why do they put X's up?
Okay, that's no problem. Before I get in that, did you see the picture of the one that's right over that pit type? Did they send you that picture?
The one it went with the snow all over it?
It's an X, but it's right on top. It's right. You were just talking about like something that had been dug out, like a hole.
Oh, okay.
It's right.
I did. honestly, I don't know if I noticed it. I
I'll
mean, because
resend it.
you sent me a lot, and I remember, you did send me a couple of X pictures,
Yep.
so I might have to go back and look to see if
I'll
there
send it to
is
you.
like a dugout.
I'll resend it.
Okay.
And I have found many tracks inside that hole, and that X is right there, right in front of it. Right in front of it. And this X is different though. Yeah, see, I come across I mean stuff like that's yeah.
See, when I come across stuff like this,
Yep.
the first thing I do is look up because
Yes.
I want to see if it's a top of a tree or
Yeah.
a branch that was overhanging, broke, and whatever.
Yeah.
And one thing, and no, I did not see anything like that. But one thing with this, notice how it's woven between
Yes.
those trees.
Yeah. Exactly.
And there were two right next to each other.
Yes.
And, I had taken my roommate with me, and she, it was kind of like one of those things because she starts off in front of me. I was like, do you mind if I walk in front? Because I want to see if there's a trail. And, granted, it's in the leaves, so it's not going to be a prominent, actual footsteps.
Right.
And she's like, go ahead. She's not a believer. And I start to see tracks, and I would bend down to look and see, start to level the playing field. And she'd just keep walking past me. And I was finally to the point where I was like, never mind. Just forget it. So, and even doing wood knocks, I was like, can you be quiet for a minute and don't move? I'm about to do a wood knock.
Yeah.
Let me get this on my digital recorder. And as soon as I do the wood knock, she'd start walking. I'm like, that's not what I was talking about.
Yeah, right.
But
I go through with buddies too.
Yeah. But when you brought up those X's and you sent me those pictures, I was like, yeah, man, I mean, I look for the ball, the roots. And if there's one that's jammed in the ground, it's like and it's not done just straight up and down and then pushed over. It is done like this.
Yes.
And and you can tell it's got a way of a support system.
Absolutely.
There's no way in the world that any of us could get up there and take. And even if it was a branch falling, it's not going to weave in between trees that are standing there.
No way.
And you have to laugh at yourself sometimes because I call it the expectation factor and the what oh gosh, I can't remember. I can't think of the name, but it's like there's people that are rookies or just hear about it and they want to go out and they have expectations of what they're going to find.
Yes.
And we've all prayed to it too.
Absolutely.
Because we're so used to it being in an area. And then when we find something and we go back, we're like, maybe I should double check that, whatever it may be. But when you have that expectation factor going on, it's one of those things. It could really screw up the evidence, but at the same time, it could actually make you notice something that you really never thought of.
No, I agree.
So, I thought that was cool. But yeah, your exes were just, and of course I love seeing it with the snow.
Oh, it
is so beautiful.
It's beautiful. And I mean, like I said, I can blow off one or two, whatever. Okay. But when you've got so many in just one little area, and then you walk the rest of the property and they're all over the place. I mean, come on. Like, I'm not one of those guys that goes in the woods and everything was done by a Bigfoot. Like, oh, that's a broken limb. Bigfoot must have done it. That's not me. I do believe that, a majority of stuff happens naturally. But there's some stuff you can't blow off. There's no way it was done naturally, There's
wondrous things that like tornadoes can do.
Oh,
when
absolutely.
It comes to, and that's one thing, like I said, when you look up, you try to see if there's one that got struck by lightning or broke from the top, but you also have to look at how it was broken.
Exactly.
Was it just broken like, this, or is it twisted?
Exactly.
Because Bigfoot does not have to go and snap it off.
No.
And we've had some bad weather lately, and I noticed more trees down in this area that I go to than usual. And I'm not sitting there picture, Bigfoot pushed it over.
Mm.
It's that kind of thing, you got to
Yeah.
use that critical and deductive
Critical
thinking. I was using too many ends there, but yeah, yeah, God, you were so spot on, and it's exciting to me to get
It-
with somebody and talk to them and be like, here you are so far away from me, and yet you've described what I've seen down here and what
Isn't
got
that
me into this.
amazing, isn't it? We
It's
talk about that
unreal.
all the time. Me and Gary and the guys, we're all from different parts of the country, from the Adirondacks to Idaho and Washington State, all the way down to Texas. Okay,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
we are all experiencing the same things, and I think that's just so interesting. You know, I mean, there's so much more to learn. In this field, it's great, it's insane. But yeah, the I think as far as the X's go, I think I've given this a lot of thought, and it could mean it's hard to say, but I think the natives, they had a system where okay, maybe they'd break something or design something a certain way, water source that way, or white-tailed deer this way, mule deer this way, moose that way, elk this way.
Mm-hmm.
Could be something like that. A way to tell maybe another passing group that goes through. Okay, this way to the spring, or it could just mean straight up get out. I don't want you past this point.
Mm-hmm.
You if I see one, and usually when I in North Carolina, Stacy and we were on our way to the area we call the bedding area, and
Mm-hmm.
there was a tree that was put there. It was put there. I mean, it was root ball and all, and it had been brought from somewhere else, and it had been laid across. And I said, Stacey, we probably shouldn't go over that. I don't want to. And the whole area looked spooky to me that night.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a weird feeling. I said, I don't really want to go in there tonight. She goes, oh, come on. She goes, let's do it. Just
Come on, you nanny.
yeah,
Let's go.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, she said much worse, but I won't repeat it on the radio.
Hey, it's live and uncensored. Say whatever you want to. You
So
want to.
yeah, so she talked me into it. So we both step over the tree, and we start hearing whoops, woo woo, like good, really good ones. Like it was nothing else. These were straight whoofs, like really good ones. And we follow this. I noticed this trail, and it had been beat down pretty good. Something big had been using it, really big. Now you could see there were deer, all sorts of deer tracks in it. There was hog tracks, everything, but something a lot bigger had been using it as well. If up here, I probably would have said, oh, could probably maybe a moose trail.
Yeah.
They can get through some wicked thick stuff.
Oh, but when it comes to Matt Moneymaker, a moose trail, that's the best Sasquatch. That is dead on.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt.
I had to make the joke. I'm sorry. I just, that's been one of the hottest topics lately. So, and there's supposed to be I think there's having a reunion special, a 2-hour show.
I didn't know that. No. When's this?
Somebody posted it earlier today, I believe, where it was, on Discovery Plus, where they're supposed to have a 2-hour show where they all get back together. And I'm kind of like, after Matt came out and just flat out said this was the best tracking, or
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. I thought they all had a falling out anyway, or a couple of them did, but I could be mistaken.
Yeah.
Who knows? But yeah, it was this trail had been beat down pretty good. So then I kind of took the point. I'm like, well, if we're in here, you got me in here now. So let's just take a quick walk. She said she had no problem with it. So we followed that trail. And I shit you not, Ashley, this is nuts. It led into this area, okay, and there was hog bones in there, like all over the place, like that had been.
And you and I, as hunters,
funnel trap.
Yeah,
It was.
As hunters, how often do you actually come across an animal carcass when you're out there?
You don't.
I mean, it's crazy because
very rare. Yeah,
it's hard. You can spend a week straight walking totally different trails,
right,
and not find so much as a femur, a rib bone, nothing.
Yep.
And I've actually gotten, there's a member in the group that I have that actually, he had a full deer. It had most of the bones. You could tell it had been picked and cleaned, and not just by whatever killed it.
Yep.
But of course, you got the smaller critters, the scavengers that come along and do their thing, and you're sitting there going, "I've been hunting my whole life. How do you find? I haven't seen the corpse like that. I haven't seen remains that way."
Did I send you that picture of that deer in the tree?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. That freaked me out. I was sitting there. I was like, because I mean, you think of, and a lot of people do say they automatically throw it towards big cats.
And I call the cat expert on that.
Yeah, and
he said,
when it comes to the jaguars and leopards and jaguars, they're the ones that have the strongest jaw strength.
Yes,
to where they can actually do it.
And that neck structure and all that is made for that.
Cougars, which and certain kind of panther is what we're used to in the U.S., which they use the snake attack. Yep. They do certain other kind of things that they are very strong.
Yes,
and I mean, they could probably jump up 5 feet in a tree, a small tree, and climb with it. Sure. But we're talking about easily from what that corpse looked like, that was probably a 120-pound deer.
Oh yeah, and that was 16 feet.
Yes, and so you're sitting there going, "Wow!" I mean, in all actuality, am I supposed to sit there and think, "Okay, big old gust of wind blew that thing up there"? And I don't know if you ever saw that the bear that was floating around.
Oh,
it was up and it had the snow on it, and it was just laying there perfectly. You couldn't see anything around its neck that would have been tying it to the tree and whatnot. And I mean, but then again, you took the deer personally. You took that picture yourself.
That carcass, yeah.
I have no clue who took that bear picture. Right. So that one is like, okay, I'm gonna put that off to the side.
Yeah. I mean, I think, not to open a whole can of worms here, but I mean, I guess it could be possible as far as that bear goes, because as far as I remember, it hadn't started decomposing, right?
The bear, no. I mean, it was full bodied. It was pretty much like this, and it almost looked like it was hovering next to the tree, and there was a little bit of snowfall on its head and shoulders on the coat.
You think it's a possibility? Let me ask you this: I don't know where that was taken, but in some states and provinces, you can hunt bear with dogs. Mm-hmm. It makes me wonder, could that be a possibility? Those dogs treed that bear and the hunters shot it, and then it didn't, fall out of the tree like they usually do. And they were too lazy to go up there and get it. And
knowing the way you can manipulate pictures in this day and age, I mean, you don't see anything really holding it up, but people could have removed certain branches or whatever to make it one of those unbelievable, and that's why you got to be so careful. I definitely wanted to share that eye shine picture because I will 100% swear down on whatever with you to say that's the color that I was used to. And a lot of people are, mostly they say they get the white, they get the red, and the amber. Mm-hmm. You're the first person that has actually come across with exactly what I used to see.
The blue. Yep.
Yes. And it was so inspiring to me when you did that. I was like, oh my, that's why I sat up. I was just going through. I was like, send me more. Send me everything you got. And I will have to go back through that video that I did send you
Mhm.
and look for what you were talking about as far as seeing something off to the side. Because,
Yeah.
there was some foliage we thought that, because there was one point where I come from left to right
Yeah.
and then I swing back left, and it was like kind of quick. And somebody pointed out it looked like there was something there, on its knees. We went through scrutinizing this and everything. I did, comparison pictures, everything. And it still kept looking like there was something there.
Yeah.
And I've got a lot of pokeweed back there, but it wasn't matching up. And then I get with Gary, and Gary gets it on one of his big screens, and he says,
Right.
wait, hold on, look at it this way and from this angle. And as soon as I do, I'm like, you're right, it's foliage.
Yeah.
We share amongst ourselves because we question our own
Exactly.
experiences, our own evidence, because we're not going to throw it out there and be like, blob squatch, I saw it.
Right.
There it is.
Right.
That's one thing I love about analytical groups and people.
Me too.
And instead of jumping to the wormholes, jumping to, because other dimensions,
Yeah.
it creates so many paradoxes if you really want to sit there and think it and put it into the equation. But for the most part, I want us to go back to the beginning. I want us to start at square one.
That's what needs to happen.
Yeah, and treat it like, let's just do the basics of what their behavior is. Watch it like you would a regular animal, even though I don't believe they are animals. Right. If you like to people watch, treat it like a person.
Right.
If you are lucky enough to see them, and if you're lucky enough to be in those kinds of areas.
Yeah.
But your experiences and just those things that you sent me, and the clap. That was awesome. I was just like, cool. No, he did not, because you hear it, and I almost sent you a message back. I was like, dude, are you sure you're sitting still? And because you can hear it just doing that through the snow, and that's why I love, that's like I said, with snow and leaves. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I've been out where it's been the dry leaves, and I've had one walking on a ridge above me, and you keep hearing the bipedal steps.
Oh yeah.
And then you go up that ridge and it gets quiet. And then next thing you know, while you're on top of the ridge, it's down below the ridge. How the hell did it get there without making that noise?
God, they're stealthy. I mean, it's just unreal. It's just unreal. I mean, we had you talk about stealth. We went to one of our other research spots one night. Before I'll get back to the X's in a second. I got to tell you this real quick. Me and 5 of my research partners from up here, went to this spot where I've gotten many reports over the years. Mm-hmm. Dad even told me about a story he heard from 1931 about a guy shooting one in that area.
Wow.
He's trying to dig out some more information on it to get the details, but anyway, we got there and it was already dark, and a female friend who was with me, as soon as we got out, she said, Jerimiah, there's one, it just seems to me there's something standing behind that tree. There's a beaver pond on one side of the logging road, mm-hmm. and on the other side there is a deep dip, like straight down a hill into this, like, what would you call it? Like a bottom, like a, almost like a ravine. I don't know.
Kind of like a gulch.
Yes, perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
It's those words sometimes. Anyway, so okay. She kept saying there's something behind that tree, and I'm like, no. I'll go over there and I'll check, and walk over, and there's nothing there. Mm-hmm. But once I said, let's go over to the other side, okay, away from the beaver pond, okay, because if they're going to be anywhere, it's going to be over there, and they're going to start, it's going to be hunting time soon. And I have a feeling, because I know the area well, there's on that side, a couple of days we went up and checked it out, and there was deer tracks all over the place in that dip. Mm-hmm. I said, they're going to be coming across from that beaver pond, and they're going to cross the road, and they're going to I knew exactly where we were going to sit. I said, let's just go sit, build a fire. I said, we can build a fire and we'll just relax for a while. We built the fire. Everyone spread out. Everybody spread out in different areas. There was I went full cami, painted my face and everything that night. I kind of hid behind I embedded myself real deep. There was a tree that was down with a huge exposed root. Huge. So I buried myself. And I really good. And I hear movement to my right. Bipedal movement. Something was walking. But it didn't sound that big. It didn't sound that big at all. Big enough, but not, not a big 10-footer, But anyway, my buddy was about, I would say 50 yards. So that would be about 150 feet away from me, at the most. He was, past the fire was in the middle of us. Okay. And he was past the fire and he was doing his thing, just poking around, all of a sudden I hear him yell, Jeremiah, get over here. You got to see this. You're not going to believe it. I go, what? I said, what, man? What? I said, I can hear, I'm trying to do something over here. He said, okay. He goes, you're going to want to see this. So I said, oh, all right. I got to get up. I was getting comfy. So I get up and I walk over to him and he points at the ground about halfway in between where he and I were. There was about a 9-inch track. And it was just starting to disappear because it was fall time. And the pine needle problem up here is out of this world. And it was starting to, how they'll step in it and then a track will just start to dissipate. It'll go away. It was the pine needles and all the other stuff. It was just so soft and so thick that, I could see it clear as day. It was starting. He goes, look. He goes, that thing just got in between the two of us and crossed without either one of us knowing about it.
I don't doubt it. It's funny because the smallest things in the woods make the most noise.
Yes.
But the big ones, they can sneak up on you in a heartbeat. In
a way that's scary. It's extremely scary. But and so that night, I said, okay, we started hearing vocalization. Matter of fact, one of them that I sent you from the other night was from that night.
Yeah.
And we were hearing like high pitched vocals, way above our frequency. High pitched. We were hearing the low howl type vocals coming from two different directions. They were definitely going back and forth. So I said, okay. We had little walkie-talkies, and I called everyone on the radio, and I said, meet us. Meet us here. So I said, there was a log land, it was horizontal to us, a big one. And I just had a feeling that something was about to go down. So I said, we're all going to sit here in the dark. We're going to cut all our lights and we're going to sit here and be quiet and see what happens. It was full moon that night. So you could everything was nicely illuminated, We're sitting there, and all of a sudden, you hear bipedal footsteps from numerous individual, whatever they were. I didn't actually see it in the light or see it. I know they were Sasquatch, but that's just the way I am. I'm not going to come out and say they were. You know what I'm getting at. But anyway, we sat there, and you can see the silhouettes. They're about 30, 40 feet away from where we were sitting. We were looking right at them as they were passing. You could see their silhouettes walking by us. And there was 5 individuals. And they were headed towards the other vocalizations that were, how I was telling you, they were coming from 2 different directions.
Yeah.
They were headed towards those.
Wow.
So, anyway.
Crazy.
It's nuts. Yeah, we in the spot up there is insane. It's one of those areas that I took a really cool. I'll email it to you tonight or tomorrow. But it's a report I just took off a logger up in that area. He saw 2 red ones, or excuse me, 1 red one, 1 black one. But I got it in report format. But I'll send it to you tomorrow. But the area is hot. It's a hotbed, and the people up there, they all live off the grid. And if you're an outsider, they won't talk to you. They won't talk. But I had a gentleman I knew, a friend of Dad's actually. He's passed now. God rest his soul. He's a great guy. Great guy. He was, he was elderly when he passed, but he was my liaison. So and he had an encounter, and he was 18 up there, so he knew they were real. And so he was my liaison. He would talk to these people first. Hey, I know a really good guy. He's not going to use your name. He just wants to find out what you know. He's trying to research these things and trying to help them and get them protection. He even had a whole spiel he'd do with these people. So, and he, sometimes they'd say no, but most of the time they would talk to me. Yeah. And I got some really, really cool stuff, really neat stuff out of them. One guy, I told this one to Barry last night. One guy, I knew him personally. I went to school with him, and I knew him pretty well. We used to have a beer together after work every now and then, but he would bust my nuts like something fierce. Oh, what are you gonna do? Call Bigfoot on me? I'd be like, whatever, dude, whatever, But anyway, so one day I get a phone call from him, and he said, Jeremiah. I said, yeah. He said, I need you to stop down. And I was like, oh, really? What for what? And I knew he had something had happened. I just need you to stop down. And he was a hardcore skeptic, just unreal. Mm-hmm. He had inherited his grandmother's house, okay, and was living there. And these things were driving him nuts. He had a family group. It was pounding on his walls, screaming. If he had a window open with a screen, they'd stick their face and scream. They were throwing stuff at him as he go to his vehicle, like really starting to get violent, aggressive. So he's like, what can we do about this situation to put them at bay? And, we did a few things. We weren't able to get them out of the area, but we were able to do enough to get them to move back, push their line back. We did just a few little tricks I've learned over the years. One of them, the first being, is always light them right up. They hate light. Yeah. If it's anything, they light them right up. And they were building structures along his yard. They were building structures, and I said, build your own and urinate all over it. I said, it's going to go one of two ways. It's either going to get worse. I said,
that is one hell of a way to roll the dice, brother. I got to give you, it's either going to get worse or they're going to go away.
Right.
You're going to wind up having these like 7 to 10 foot creatures like beating down your house, or they'll go away.
But at this point, he really didn't have a choice. He had to do something because it was getting that bad. I said,
it kind of sounds like Boggy Creek, with reaching in the windows and being right there and whatnot. That's crazy.
So I told him, I said, urinate all over. He did. So he did. We did. And eventually they moved back, and he still sees them every now and then, but they don't bother him anymore. Yeah, he stood his ground. And it worked. Sometimes that's not going to work. Please, people out there, do not try that.
Put it this way. That's one thing I always say about this show is a disclaimer. Just because we go out in the middle of the night or we go, tracking and whatnot, don't do what we say we do. Because, and I think when Pat Turner did his little free speech, I guess build up to that 411 debate, and they were talking about all this stuff, and look, you could get three strides off of a trail and start looking around and doing something, and if you're in the right kind of environment, you're lost already.
You get turned right around.
And that's why, I never recommend people going out alone. I don't recommend you going out without letting somebody know, the GPS coordinates of where you start. You need to have a GPS unit of your own, not your cell phone.
That's right.
And you need, put it this way, my pack, whenever I take it with me, by doctor's orders, yes, I'm supposed to get out because I have seizures. I'm supposed to get out and get exercise, but he doesn't want me carrying a heavy pack. And I'm like, Doc, I've got survival stuff in there, and I've got things for collecting evidence in case.
Yep.
And he's like, well, try and keep it as light as possible. He says, you don't need one. And you're sitting there walking around with, just in case you're not close to a water source, and so far I have not gone with my camel bladder yet. It's tucked in there, but it hadn't been full. But I've got, a couple water bottles. I've got a gallon bag full of, the casting powder. Yep. And it's like, I'm trying to find ways to make it lighter, but when you look at those, and yeah, I never go out in an area that I'm not familiar with. And if I'm not familiar with it, I make certain that I, print out a topographical map for myself, because you got to make sure, and I've got my compass with me. Yeah. It's just, you got to be smart. It's don't go do something just because, oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
If you're not trained, if you're not an experienced hiker, camper, tracker, if you really, and especially at night, don't go. And like last night you even said, when you went live, I'm breaking my own rules.
Breaking my own rule, yeah. And I'll admit that
I do that to myself. I go out alone because, here my roommate was screwing up the tracks in front of me and wouldn't be quiet, so I could try. And not that there was anything out there in the first place,
right?
But at the same time, as you sit there and kind of go, I'd rather go alone sometimes, sure. But it's not the smartest thing.
Right.
It's not the smartest thing because, there's a lot of places on the tribal lands that I go to that, one small step and you're falling 40 feet down to rocks,
Oh, yeah.
And that's where I actually followed a trail. I caught tracks, and as I started following the trail, it went all the way up the ridge and around. And when I started getting to the down point, I'm like, seriously? It's like this. Yeah. And when I look back at my tracks behind me, here I am. I'm really having to watch and study these prints and these tracks. And if you're untrained, if you don't know what you're doing, all you see is basically just matted down stuff.
Right.
But then when I stop and I look back at me, even if you didn't know tracking from your ass, you could follow me anywhere because I look like an elephant dancing in the sand. And I'm like, these guys are so good. I wish I could walk like them.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, so I do not ever encourage anybody to go out and do things the way me nor my guests do. Nope. Because we've got experience. We know what we're doing. We have survival skills. We have hiking, tracking, whatever it may be. And even then, we still don't know it all.
Exactly. Not even close. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where you just, I don't want to sit there and be one of those where I have to feel sorry or, I feel guilty because, okay, yeah, this person watched my show and they went out and got lost and,
yeah, I think too. Yeah.
So it's, I've thought about doing instructional videos and talking about it and whatnot. But at the same time, like I said, I'd rather just say, look, don't do this at home, kids. Just listen to us. Yeah. And if you do go out, please make sure you take the utmost caution. Take somebody with you. Let somebody know where you are. Have a GPS unit. And, okay, you could spend $600 and you could have a sat phone and a total, a GPS unit.
Yep.
And yeah, I know that's a lot of money these days with the way the economy's going, but if you're going to do this and if you're going to do this for real, this isn't just a hobby to people like you and I. This is a passion. This is something we know, and we are trying to get to the bottom of it.
Absolutely.
So, it's not just like, oh, it's a Saturday, let's go out.
Right.
We know the situation in Oklahoma. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. I don't care how much revenue you want.
No.
You're calling for innocent animals and humans to be either trapped and seriously injured or killed.
Yeah, you're gonna see a lot. Yeah, if that ever did pass, you're gonna see a lot of dead people.
Oh yeah, and
Without a doubt.
I shared on the group page about a guy that just got killed because he was in a ghillie suit and he was trying to play Bigfoot
I
hoaxes.
heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, he got hit by one car, bounced off of it, landed on the road, and another car ran over him.
Oh my God.
I mean, how many?
Yeah, it's the things people do. It just blows my mind right away. The things that some people do. But yeah, the guy, like she's saying, do as we say. What's the saying? Do as we
Do as
say.
I say, don't do as I do.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah. So I forget where was I going with that.
Shit, don't ask me, dude. We don't. we don't. Look, Gary's not here to referee. Like I said, we've done gone into a full brawl on subjects.
Right. Oh, the hole. I was just telling. Back to that hole.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's an axe. Okay, with the root balls. Okay, you got balls and all shoved in. They're shoved in the ground. And this one has a vertical stick in the middle of the axe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so that means something different to me. I don't know what it is, but it's got to mean something different to them. So I've sat in that hole. I also sent you the videos of that when I got followed out that night with up here with the thing with where it showed me its fluorescent light eyes. I don't know if you've watched it yet, but they were probably the most recent videos I've sent, aside from the clapping. But anyway, I watched it in the woods, and I got the impression he wanted me out. So I walked out, and he followed me out to make sure.
Let me stop you real quick.
Yeah.
I had a message come across. I got to say hi to my godson. Triton, what's up, buddy? I love you. Quit giving your mama a hard time. And you'll be a guest on the show one day. I promise. He's
How old is
he? He's about to be 4 this spring. So, but yeah, he's sitting there yelling, "Hey, Ashley," from what she said, and she's like, "She can't hear you, babe." So I had to go ahead and say, "What's up, Triton?" And they actually have, they've been having experiences on their property. So that's going to be one, once hunting season's over, I can't wait to get out there and check it out. So
there you go.
All right. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
I was just going to tell you, I have my godson, my nephew, Noah. He knows every Native American term for Sasquatch.
Awesome.
When he was 4, he knew every term. And because I taught him everything. I said he's going to be my little swatching partner someday.
Oh yeah.
And to this day, he'll say Uncle. He calls him Uncle Maya. Hey, Uncle Maya, I was looking at something really cool today. What do you think of my analysis on this video? He's very intelligent. He's 7 now, and I'll be like, damn, the kid's so smart. I mean, it's cute. I know
this boy is a handful. Oh my goodness. I mean, good Lord, some of the stories, and when he's on the phone with me or doing FaceTime, he's a handful. So, and he goes out with them like when they've gone coon hunting and stuff, and they've caught some vocals. That boy's up there. He got his jacket on. He's standing in the back of the gator. Well, I'm not sure what kind of 4-wheeler they've got or off-roader, but he's standing up there like he's ready to roll.
Yep.
And that boy loves his mud, so he don't care.
Sounds just like my nephew. That's very cute. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I'm sorry about cutting you off. I did. Okay. I just want to make sure Triton knew that Aunt Ashley was thinking about him.
No, of course I did the same thing. But I've taken many successful videos from inside that hole. Whether I should have walked into it or not, that's who knows. Maybe it wasn't supposed to be something I went into, but I've seen many tracks in it. I've found bones in it before. Taking great videos from it. But yeah, I mean it's insane. I mean, so basically. I mean, we've had other encounters down here. My wife had an encounter, a very, very, very up close and personal encounter with what we believe to be the alpha male of this group. And she was 20 feet away from him. But my wife she's different. You can ask Gary. She's got a pretty good good set on her, you know, but she's fearless, you know,
Yeah.
and you know, she's a martial artist as well. She so she's no joke. She's a tough little chick. She
maybe me and her will have to meet up with some gloves sometime.
yeah, she's tiny. She's about she's 5'2", about 100 buck
Oh,
10.
so she's like featherweight.
She is, yeah. But she's not scared of anything in the woods. I mean, you know. But so she said, I'm gonna go blueberry picking. I said, okay, that's fine. We were building the cabin at the time. We were living off the grid.
Mm-hmm.
Said, make sure you take your weapon. You know, and it's not for the Sasquatch. It's for other things. You know. Okay, God, I'll take it. And so she took it, and she comes back about 40 minutes later, and it wasn't like her. She'd usually be gone hours picking blueberries. She didn't have her basket with her. She left it down there. She goes, I just saw him. I said, you saw who? And she said, I saw him. And she said, you know, the one we've been seeing the tracks of?
She's referring to the alpha.
Yes. We were finding his tracks. They were 19 inch tracks. Just beastly. We think he's the alpha. Yeah, we think, and I'll tell you why. It's just we think in a second. But she came very close to him, and she described him. She took me. I said, "Well, take me to where you saw him." And she took me to where she saw him, and there was a branch coming off this tree. When he turned around, he walked underneath it, and he cleared it by about 3 inches. She said. So I said, "Okay." I said, I gave her the end of the measuring tape, and I said, hold on to that. Put it on the ground. I stood on top of the four-wheeler, and I stretched it, and I measured to the bottom of that limb. It was 10'6".
Mm-hmm.
So he was about 10 foot, 10'2", whatever. That's gargantuan. I mean, that's huge. I mean, that's just huge. But she said it was like a thing of mutual respect. And I think what my theory actually behind this whole thing is that when I won the confidence of that, because the ones we deal with on our land, they are very passive towards us. They've only had one case where they were hunting and they didn't want me around and they escorted me out. But, you know, aside from that, they've never gotten violent. They've never given us an issue. I've got other research spots where that's a different case. But anyway, they've always been never bothered us. And I think it was when I won the confidence of that female. When she saw that rifle and we had that stare down, I think she realized, okay, he's not a threat. Maybe we can trust.
Yeah. See, sometimes I wonder, you know, if, of course, when you stop and think about nature and pack animals, the alpha male is the rule. He sets the way. But I wonder if, you know, when it comes to them, maybe the female, the alpha female is the one that actually wears the pants, because it seems like they're not scouts, but they tend to be out a lot more. I mean, granted, like I said, my class A was with a male.
Yeah.
I did not see any specific genitalia. The only thing is I noticed the chest, you know, there was no breast to it or anything like that. And he had the stance of a male. I've noticed just in the shadows and whatnot, from what I assume would be females, they seem to be the ones that are a little bit more relaxed.
Yes.
And looking forward. The males are the ones that kind of sit like this, and even though they may be relaxed and have kind of this, they're still more upright.
I agree.
If that makes any sense. Yeah, because
it makes complete sense. And she described, and we think he's the alpha, but I think that set the tone. I really do. Is that night. And then when I brought her down you know, we grew up together, and I had a crush on her as a kid, but she's 2 years older than me, so she didn't have time for the younger kid at the time, you know. So I had to wait 20 years. So, but
you had to work hard for that one, didn't you?
I had to work hard for it, yeah. So when I finally brought her down, they gave us 2 months of hell. You know, I think they were just getting used to her, testing her out to see how she was. And they've come to the conclusion we're not a threat. You know,
Yeah.
I really believe that in my heart. But we'll go to other places that are
Yeah, like when you said the mind speak and whatnot.
yeah.
And I told you the other night about my experience when I had my first Class A. And y'all forgive us, you know what? We are coming up on 2 hours, but me and Jeremiah, we're having a great conversation right
Absolutely.
now. But when it comes down to it, it's like this. I can't think of the right word for it. I had that Class A, and there was a certain feeling. There was this warning that almost sounded like a voice in my head to get inside at that time, because it was during that electrical storm. But then again, I'm a Christian, so it for as far as I know, it could have been God saying, "Get inside."
Right.
But what was I find so confounding and so funny was the expression on his face. He may have been 50 yards away, but he was so big that I could literally see the brow kind of raised and his head would tilt a little, like, what are you doing out in here? What are you doing out in this stuff?
That's how Stacy described hers.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't believe totally, in the mind speak or whatever.
Right.
Because like I said, that could have just been gut instinct, but it came across as a voice in my head, whatever it might work. Could have been one of my personalities. we never know. But when it comes down to it, I do believe they feel vibes. They can feel your energy. They can feel your intent.
100%.
Because when my shift partner was throwing the rocks and pissing that one off, and it threw that big rock, and you saw the video, that's not something I share with a lot of people.
Right.
I did post it on Facebook back then because I was like, haha, whatever. But then the more I watched it, I was like, oh my gosh, and then I started like really getting on myself for it. And I was like, I shouldn't have shared that, because that's what makes people, make the jokes and whatnot, because it is such bad pixelation. It is such bad lighting.
Yeah.
But it was so awesome.
Yeah.
To experience that. And it does it scares the crap out of you, but it puts you in awe.
Yeah.
And then once I stopped taking Billy with me, I was like, you ain't coming with me. You done ticked him off last time. And I did track him, one time where he was growling at me through the rock. But then that trust started coming in. Once I started backing off and just kind of sitting outside and letting him feel my vibe. And be like, dude, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm just curious. I'm curious just like you are. And he became my protector pretty much.
Yeah. Well, she's told me several times when she'd go berry picking, and I'm not going to lie, it scared me for a while. But she said she would hear him in the brush walking with her. He never harmed her, never got aggressive with her. Makes me wonder if he was trying to protect her from something.
In your experiences, do you think you have a little bit more of a hard time getting that comfort zone with them than she does?
I told you about my wife, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think she can find that comfort zone. Yeah, a lot easier than I can.
Mm-hmm.
I have a harder time with it.
Well, the reason I ask is because it seems like in a lot of people I know, like when I go to Squatch World, as I call it, me and my friend, we go out and we're having fine, no problems. Her husband, they hate him.
Yeah.
And then like our friend, like we were talking about from across the pond, him, a Bigfoot researcher and then a skeptic, they came out and we did it was actually 5 days for them, 4 days for me investigation. And it was that kind of thing where we had never had any kind of aggressive behavior whatsoever. But then we were coming up from a little trail by the swamp and we got bluff rushed. I mean, this thing was like and I whipped around. I had my hand on the butt of my pistol and I'm like you, I'm anti-kill.
Yeah.
Would never pull my gun on, nothing.
Yeah.
But for all I knew, it could have been a hog, coming through the bush.
In your life, I'm gonna
Yeah, it's just
not shooting. You know,
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's gut reaction.
he's got,
You
yeah,
whip around and that hand is right. You're right there, ready to draw and fire.
yeah,
But that was the only bet, and the only thing we can kind of attribute it to is the fact that we had strangers with us. They were used to, and those strangers happen to be three men. They're used to three women.
Yep.
Walking around there on a normal basis, doing looking at things and whatnot, and then all of a sudden they've got trail cams set up. They've got these all this other different stuff, and these people coming in. There's three guys, and they're like, that's not the norm.
In my opinion, that definitely had something to do with it. Yeah. I'll tell you something. It's funny you mentioned that. We've had a lot of the same things happen. I see, like a lot of similar situations.
Mhm.
We have I have a very close friend. He likes to tip him back. I mean, I like to have a beer every now and then, but he really enjoys his cocktails. So I told him one night. I said, "I'm going to bring you down, okay?" Because he had been begging me, "Please take me down there. Let's camp out, please, please." I said, okay, I'll take you, but I can't promise how they're going to react, man. I'm like, they don't really like it when I bring strangers down here. They don't. If it's a family member or me or Stacy, we're fine. But they don't like it. I've got a couple other buddies too, they know, that are always fine as well. But anyway, I said, okay, but just listen to me. Promise me one thing, okay? Whatever you do not bring a long gun with you. Do not bring it with you. And he said, I won't. I promise you. So I said, okay, I'll bring you down. So first of all, Steven, if you're listening, I don't mean anything bad about this. I just got to tell this story because everyone's going to find this interesting. So anyway, he lit up, and he gets in his bag and pulls out a tactical 12 gauge. I said, "What the hell is that?" Oh, I just, I didn't figure you were serious. Well, did you figure I was serious? Yeah, I was serious. So I said, "Oh my God, dude, just put it away, please." Just because I could hear him on the other side of the pond. We were hearing vocals that night. We were hearing him moving. I said, "Please, just put it away." I mean, granted, I had my side on me, but I always leave it covered up.
Yeah.
Anyway, all of a sudden, Ashley, a shot goes off, and I feel the wind by my head. I turn and I look at him. I said, "Dude, did you just let one go?" And he had shot. He said, "Yeah, I wanted to see if it was loaded." And actually, it was pointed right towards my head, a buckshot, and I could see the ball bearing about that far away from my head. Can you imagine what would have happened if that would have hit me? I had been taking my head off.
What is your friend doing owning guns right now? If he does not know.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was because he was so hammered. He shouldn't be handling a weapon hammered like that anyway. But anyway, at that second, a log, 4-foot log, about that big around, comes flying across that pond and lands about a foot right in front of his feet. And I think it made them mad to see him almost kill me. I really do. And I have always thought that it angered the one that threw the log. He probably watched the whole thing happen, and he threw it. And I think it was giving him the message, you're not welcome down here anymore. And I haven't brought him since, and won't. I mean, he still took my head off, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, my gosh, that's anytime. Like for New Year's, I was at a bonfire, and this guy had, a bullet that was his grandfather just passed. And
yeah.
He said it was a 9, and he wanted it. And I saw him, like, here's my gun, because I had it on my hip because we're out in the woods having a bonfire. And he's sitting there trying to put it in there, and I'm like, nope, give me the gun. And the whole time, of course, I'm it's away from everybody.
Sure.
Come to find out I was damn 45. I was like, son, this ain't
Oh,
gonna fit in my
God.
dadgum gun. It's too big.
Oh my Lord.
But yeah, I mean, put this. I've got a scope from a little rifle that I've got, and if I take my binoculars with me, of course, for daylight, during the daylight.
Yeah.
But I'll have my scope too. It's detached from the gun. I won't take the gun with me.
Right.
I'll have my sidearms on me, but
Right.
no, I will not take a long gun. I will not take a rifle with me on any kind of, whatnot, because they know. And
They know.
I've heard stories where somebody has raised their gun to look through the scope
Mhm.
and see what they're seeing, and there's been no reaction. But
Right.
then you've had others that it's like you raise that gun and it might as well come close to being a death sentence.
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely. See, they don't mind if I'm during deer season. I hunt right out back where they are. Yeah. And I always leave them in peace. I always leave them to liver or something, just it's their land. They were here before I was.
Yep.
I kill a deer, they're going to get a piece.
And that's also like, somewhat, and when it comes to indigenous people, that's also some kind of it's a ritual.
Yes. And
when it comes to any kind of heart, the liver,
right,
kidneys, sometimes you take a bite and you leave it as an offering. So you share. I'm sharing with you, but it's not that kind of gifting that we talk about. Where you're not supposed to feed them. Leave them little trinkets.
Don't get me wrong, because I don't feed them. I don't believe in it.
No, I'm saying I could tell you understand the difference between natively speaking, and I'm not trying to use that term, in mockingly, but as far as indigenous people go,
absolutely,
that's how things worked. It was I take a bite. Yep. This is yours. Thank you. And for, blessing me and letting me come into your territory to gather my food for my family. People don't realize that.
No,
there's a big respect.
Yeah.
A revolving door of respect when it comes to these target species. And
I just heard that was interesting.
You get a knock on the door? Or
no, I heard a pretty loud scream outside.
I meant to ask you earlier when you were talking about that initial scream. Was it like a low tone or was it high tone, like male or female when you were talking?
Which one? When
you were first talking about being out. Now my words are going to get tangled.
Oh, when I was with all the girl group thing?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the ones coming from this direction, they seemed to be higher pitched. They were headed towards the ones that were really deep.
So it might have been like the males saying we're moving.
Yeah, I think maybe it was maybe an alpha or one of the higher ranking males telling the rest of the group, hey, me and Billy Bob or whatever, we're going to do our hunt now. So everyone, come on, we're going hunting.
Billy Bob Bigfoot.
Yeah, Billy Bob Bigfoot. Yeah, so that's what I think that ordeal was. Oh, and to come to find out, when we left, I said, everyone, two of the people in the group, my friend Angie I had with me, and another one of the guys, they tried to get up as they were walking by. They freaked out so bad, and I tried to put my hands on their shoulders and don't just sit here still. Don't let them just sit here. You'll be fine. Come to find out, on our way out, I went just for the hell of it behind that tree one more time to see, how she was saying there was one behind there. She kept saying it over and over again, and there was a set of tracks there. So she was right. There had been one there at a certain, when I don't know at what point it was there, but it was probably one of the ones that was in that group that passed in front of us. Yeah. But it was keeping an eye on us until they got there, and then it probably joined up with them, and they took off.
Yeah, that's kind of like a lot of people, when they talk about the PG film, they think that Patty might have actually been a decoy.
Very good.
Their attention going in one direction while the others moved, to gather the group.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I truly believe in that. And yeah, the whole decoy thing, that happens all the time. Absolutely.
There's so many different disciplines to their dynamic.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I mean, like, it's so repetitive to keep saying we don't know.
Right.
But we have so many theories, and there are so many of us that do get together. Like, okay, you and I met through Gary, and you get this closed group.
Yes.
Which, one thing I will say right off the bat, I absolutely positively hate the fact that there is so much animosity and competitive
In our field.
in the Bigfoot. I mean, why not? Everybody can throw in their theories.
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, I say I don't believe in this, and I may crack a joke here and there, but I'm not trying to insult anybody on their beliefs.
Right. Same here.
But at the same time, there's no need for the hate. There's no need for just being downright cruel.
No.
And, but at the same time, when we, like I was saying, we go back to those ground roots, go back to that first part, and let's actually figure out the mainstream of them before we start jumping to wormholes and other dimensions and mind speak and this other stuff. Until we can get to the point where we can actually, your experience, that amazes the living crap out of me, that you had 5 minutes of this going on with the target species for your first encounter.
Yeah.
Mine was probably 3 to 5 seconds.
Yeah, and the one with the female was quick too, but it seemed forever. In all reality, it was probably 15 seconds.
Yeah, like I said, I was running towards the office, and I mean, I wasn't like hauling ass.
Yeah,
I was kind of jogging, and I just looked up, and it was kind of like this, huh? And it was. I had this unbelievable reaction to the point where it was like, am I seeing what I'm seeing? I know I'm not hallucinating. I had to go through this deductive process once I got in the office and everything, because I'm like, okay, that was the furthest, why would I be thinking about Bigfoot? I'm thinking about the safety of, my inmates.
Sure.
We've got major storms, tornado warnings, all this stuff going on. Why would I look up at a hill and just imagine or have this delusional experience of this 10-foot plus creature?
Exactly.
When, I mean, it didn't make sense to me. And I know what I saw. I know that it was real.
And that's the thing, like when people question, what you say to them, I'll say, I know what I saw. I saw it with my own eyes. I know what I saw. That's simple as that. And that's, I guess, and there's, as well as I do, these people, these haters out there, there's no sense in even trying to debate it with them, because they're going to do it no matter what, there's always going to be haters. And then, like you said, there's always going to be animosity within the field with researchers, which I hate it. I hate that. If everyone could just stand together, I think we'd learn a lot more and might get a lot further, if we would just come together more. But hey, having an inner circle the way, we all do, I think it's great. I think it's very, when people, can be adults and agree to disagree once in a while, that's great. That's awesome. Instead of people on Facebook getting a 6-month debate going about something stupid, you know what I mean? And then ruining a friendship.
Yeah, the Bigfoot world, when it comes to stuff like that, it's gotten just as bad as politics.
It has.
As far as people just, this and, and
it really has.
We don't know anything about this. We can only go by what we've experienced.
Exactly.
If you see it disappear, let's work on that once we actually solidify that this is there, that it is actually there, and we can prove that it exists.
Exactly.
And then we'll get to how it travels.
You're right. Yeah. Get back.
One step at a time. Baby steps.
Baby steps. That's how it's got to be. Baby steps. Ashley, I hate to do this to you.
I was about to do it myself. I mean, we're getting close to 2.5 hours.
I could have kept talking another 3 if you're let me know, and I'll be more than happy to come back on at some point.
Yeah, we can always do. I mean, that's
Just
not a
let me
problem. I love talking to you. I do have one question for
Yeah,
you.
no problem.
What do you think would be the best hold to work on a Bigfoot?
The best what now?
Best hold, armbar,
Oh,
guillotine. What are we talking? Come on.
boy, I don't think any. I don't think any would be effective.
No, I think we'd get a backhand and be like, phew.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't even want to try an armbar on a daggum Bigfoot. It would be like,
No.
no.
As far as the guillotine goes, you wouldn't even be able to get anything around its neck.
Exactly. You don't have there's barely a neck to really get on to choke with. But look, Jeremiah, I greatly appreciate it. I
Same here,
love talking to you.
Same here.
And,
Yep.
this was one hell of a show.
I
It was great to just sit down and, bounce things off of each other.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate you coming on. And yes, definitely, I want you on in the future. I definitely want you to come back and see us.
Awesome. Well, Ashley, it's like this is great, and yeah, I will be. Remind me tomorrow. I said I was going to send you a couple things, and I've forgotten already.
Yeah.
Remind me tomorrow, and I'll get them out to you.
Not a problem. Sweet deal.
As soon as I get off, I'm gonna hop in bed and pass out.
I'm not that far behind you, brother. I'm about ready to pass out myself. But once again, I appreciate it. You have a great rest of your week. To the audience, y'all have a great rest of y'all's week. Thank you for tuning in. And everybody have a great night, and keep rocking your squatching.
Absolutely. Have a good night,
brother. Bye-bye.
Later.